Hello and welcome to another special episode of Harmonious World. For this episode, I am joined once again by vocalist and pianist Laila Biali. Laila was my first ever guest on Harmonious World back in June 2020. And then I interviewed her again in November of that year. And ever since then, she's been working on all sorts of things. And I've heard her music on the radio several times. But now she's got a new album out, which is called Winter Songs. And it's just a love letter to winter. It's just a beautiful album. And what you're listening to now is Keep On Moving. One of the lovely things about Winter Songs is that some of the tracks include the Venuti String Quartet and some include a chamber orchestra. I'm very much looking forward to talking to Laila again, and in fact I shall be seeing her in a few weeks when her tour comes to London. I hope you enjoy listening to my conversation with Laila Biali. Welcome to Harmonious World, Laila Biali.
Oh, thanks for having me back on the show, Hillary. It's great to see you again. I can see you here over Zoom.
Yeah, exactly. It's not quite the same as being in person, but I am going to see you in person in November when you're at Ronnie's, which is great.
Yeah, it'll be our third time playing the club, and we are basically sold out. So very just thrilled that London is showing up for us.
Oh, well, absolutely. And you just gave me a sneak preview of a special guest you've got. So tell my audience now about that.
Yes. So Emma Ravitch, who many of your listeners may already be familiar with, is this incredible saxophonist and composer who I met through the German label Act. She released her debut record with them and will have many forthcoming and new releases with them, no doubt, because they are very committed to who she is on the scene as an exciting new voice. And so she and I had the pleasure of joining forces on stage for the first time in November of 2023 in Munich. And it was an interesting pairing. I mean, surely it was about women in jazz and two women from different generations. I just turned 44. Emma is still in her 20s. But what I loved was, it just felt like we were on equal ground. I have so much I admire about her and can learn from her. And I am, very grateful to say that she seems to feel the same. And so there was this wonderful mutual respect and synergy. And so I've asked her to join me at Ronnie's. And so Emma's going to be joining my band there, which will feature my husband, Ben Whitman, on drums, and London's own Max Luthert on bass. So it'll be
fantastic.
Yes. So we're kicking off our Winter Songs tour in London. And I do have to tell folks, those who've bought tickets have already bought their tickets, so they're going to enjoy whatever it is we have on offer. But I think we'll definitely feature Winter Songs, the new album, but we'll wrap in some other songs that we featured on your requests. And we won't go too Christmassy on folks, because I feel like there isn't as much appetite for that until we hit December officially. Right?
Yeah.
So maybe you can fill me in, Hillary. What's the vibe like in the UK? Are they ready for Christmas post Halloween? Yeah, no, I didn't think so.
No. But post Halloween. So right, my attitude is right. We have Halloween on the 31st of October. Yeah. Then we have Remembrance Day on the 11th of November, which is like a big, serious, I think we take that very seriously. You then, Americans, you have Thanksgiving wherever you have Thanksgiving in towards the end of November. And I don't start Christmas until the 1st of December. That's when Christmas hits in.
Same for me. Yes.
Yeah. But Winter Songs, your new album, is about more than Christmas, isn't it? So I know you've got some Christmas songs in your vocabulary, but this is about so much more than that. So
It
I think I
is.
will let you get away with that.
Thank you. And that's by design. So we released 3 singles last year: Belle Nuit de Noël, an arrangement of Joy to the World, and an original Christmas song titled 4 Sundays to Christmas. And initially, Hillary, they were supposed to be bundled onto this Winter Songs album. But after much strategic discussion with my husband and a few advisors, we made the decision to leave them off of the album because we didn't want it to be pigeonholed as a holiday album per se. We wanted it to be, it's seasonal, but we wanted it to sort of be a project that folks could carry, past Christmas or whatever holiday it is that they celebrate, well into the new year, and perhaps even year round if they want, some winter vibes in the middle of July.
Yeah. Right. Well, one of the songs that I'm going to request for you to do at Ronnie's, which I suspect is going to be there on the set list anyway, is your version of "Take Me to the Alley."
Oh, you know what? I'm glad you asked for it because we wouldn't have included it. So I'm going to make a note. That we need to include "Take Me to the Alley."
I tell you why, because your version is just stunning, but also we love Gregory Porter. We absolutely adore everything that he does. And his version, obviously, of that is the classic, but I like the way you put your own twist on it. And it's a song that people will know. People in Ronnie's will know that song.
So I have a secret, and I just shared this in a Canadian interview a couple days ago, but you'll be the first one to share this with the British public. So I actually wanted Gregory Porter to sing on Winter Songs. There was one tune, Outside, that
I love Outside.
that I envisioned as a duet. And so Gregory would have sung the second verse and then the harmonies that ensue thereafter. And it was really hard to reach him. I tried every way you could think of short of, direct contact. And I think he's got quite a team that surrounds him. And my sense of him, he seems so lovely, but I think he's quite private. And it was a contrast to reaching out to Kurt Elling, for example, or even Sting. I mean, I have a relationship with Sting, but Kurt, I didn't know particularly well, except that I had heard he was a fan of my music, which of course was very helpful when I asked him if he would guest with me on your requests. But Gregory Porter, I didn't manage to get him this time around, but we're still holding out hope that we may be able to release a single version of Outside down the road that features him. We'll have to see.
Right. Which is actually really interesting because in the middle at this point, I would like to play some of Outside because I love that song.
Oh, thank you.
Twisting, turning, floating, falling from the trees. Spinning, swirling, winding, twirling, snow
most pop, in air quotes, tune on the record. You know, it's very eclectic, as you know and have heard. So that's the more I've called it, and my husband protests when I say this, but it's got just a hint of Disney in it. Just a hint. You know, I think the mom in me that raised a son in the time of Frozen, you know, it's like some of that somehow got into the winter theme here and into the song outside.
All right. Oh, but that's a beautiful, beautiful song. So this album has been 3 years in the making, really, hasn't it?
It has, in fits and starts. So, you know, we didn't work on it flat out, but what happened was every summer, you know, which is the time you'd have to wrap up an album to properly launch it for the coming winter season, every summer would cycle around, and Ben and I would look at each other. Ben is my co-producer and husband, and we would say, is it done? Is it going to be ready? And invariably, for the past 3 years until this year, we just felt there was more to be done. There was more that we wanted to add, more that we wanted to shift and change. And we were really paying attention to what the music was asking of us. And that's humbling, because if I'd had my druthers, we would have released this in, you know, November of 2022. But instead, it's November of 2024.
Right. There's a connection with Banff Centre for Arts and Creativity in Alberta. Is that where some of these songs were written? It feels very kind of wintry there. I mean, I'm sure it's not winter all the time, but you know, it feels like it.
They were all written in Banff, all of them. And my past 4 original albums, House of Many Rooms, the self-titled album, Out of Dust, and now Winter Songs, they were all written pretty much in their entirety at the Banff Centre, whether I was there for 3 days or 2 weeks. And for Winter Songs, I was there for 2 weeks in the thick of winter. It was the end of November. And in fact, I was just at the Banff Centre again working on a Joni Mitchell project. And though it was October, we had -6-degree weather. Wow. And I know we speak the same language. We both speak in Celsius.
Yes.
And when it comes to temperatures. And so you could already see snow on the mountains some mornings. And so it was very, very cold and wintry when I found myself there in November and December of 2021, 3 years ago, when I composed this material. And Hillary, the plan was not to write a Winter Song suite. I had a different project in mind when I went. But then there I was in my cabin in the woods, looking out on the winter scenes before me. And this was the suite of music that came out. It was my soundtrack for what I was looking out at.
Yeah. Wow. And it certainly comes out as something very, I mean, it could only have been an accompaniment to kind of snow and frost and all of those sort of things. And conversely, that the idea of being sort of snuggled up in the warm, you know, with a blanket around you kind of thing, listening.
Exactly. So, you know, the elements are there, and some songs are more blustery and more wintry than others, but I want all of them to give people a cozy feeling at the end of it. You know, this is to me, winter is a season actually of moving inward and of retreat. It's also a time of wonderful community and looking outwards, you know, and reaching outwards and loving your neighbor and trying to help those in need. But it can be a very solitary time. And I experienced both when I was in Banff writing this music. It was a combination of, you know, pulling away from people and the elements and just kind of being on my own writing the music, but then I would venture out into nature and into the elements, and it was me and Father Winter or Mother Nature, and then I would also go to the banquet hall 2 or 3 times a day to eat, and there, you know, you would break bread with a whole slew of people who were at the Banff Centre for one reason or another. It's this wonderful hub of activity across all fields. So not just musically and artistically, but there's tons of Indigenous programs, and then also, you know, scientists and mathematicians and and people from the corporate world. It's a really special place in the heart of the Rocky Mountains, you know, in the middle of nowhere.
And that's a beautiful part of the world. I know Colorado, the sort of the bottom end, if you like, really well. It's just so beautiful, isn't it?
It is. That's exactly. If I were to choose a place stateside that mirrors Banff, it would be Colorado, whether it's, you know, Aspen or Vail or somewhere there.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Now this album's really interesting because it's got the Venuti String Quartet and then a chamber orchestra in it. So lots and lots of strings, which is really lovely against your voice and the piano, or interspersing with. So was that a very deliberate choice to bring strings in?
Yes, they were part of the fabric of this music from the first notes. So when I sat down at the piano and Drifting Down Ice, the first song, came to me just right there on the spot. I mean, it was, I've compared it to downloading music from the cloud. It was like it was there to be discovered and released almost, you know, and so there I was just playing through the song and singing along, and I could hear strings in my mind's ear. And it was definitely the arranging of Drew Jureka, who plays second violin and bandoneon in the Venuti String Quartet, and he's a brilliant arranger. He's Grammy Award winning. He's arranged for Dua Lipa and some big stars, but he comes from classical music, and I could hear that chamber classical sound integrated with my own piano and voice, etc. So they are integral to the sound of the album for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, and it just kind of somehow sets that tone, doesn't it, of cold and warmth and snuggliness and coziness and all of those things that kind of come together. So, and I there's some beautiful, especially writing for cello. I love the cello anyway, so there's some beautiful parts where that comes out. It's just lovely.
I love the cello too. I played that instrument for probably only 2 weeks when I was in high school. And it was the reason it didn't last was I had a huge hike from where I attended school to our home, which was at the top of a hill, basically at the base of a ski mountain. And it was called Grouse Mountain. And I would have to haul that thing uphill for 30 minutes on my way home from school. And so I went, no, I can't do this, but I love the timbre.
Yeah.
So much warmth.
Yeah, and I think it seems to go really well with your voice. It seems to be, you know, there's sort of your voice, and then there's the cellos at the bottom, and then there's everything else in the middle. I don't know. There's something about it. It's just lovely.
Oh, thank you. That's really nice to hear.
Yeah. Anyway, well, thank you so much for joining me, especially to talk about winter songs. And I will point my audience in the direction of finding it online. And they can't come to see you at Ronnie's when I'm there because you're pretty much sold out. Well, by the time this comes out, it'll all be done. So
yeah. Oh, I know it's I wish we were touring more broadly in the UK. There's a presenter who organizes a series. I'm trying to remember where exactly, but it's a region of the country. And he, presents a lot of classical music, but he was interested in winter songs. So hopefully we'll get that off the ground before long, and I can come play a wider circumference or radius than just London, although London is my favorite city in the world.
Right. Well, and rightly so.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, I look forward to seeing you, and thank you for joining me. I mean, this is your third appearance on Harmonious World, and you were my first ever guest, so I cannot thank you enough.
I'm thankful to you, Hillary, for the opportunity, and you ask such thoughtful questions, and I know you play too, right? You're a musician yourself, so
yeah.
So that makes a difference in terms of the depth of what we can get into musically speaking. Yeah.
Right. Thank you. I think it's one of the things that makes this a special podcast is the fact that I get the music and I get the intricacies of it, which is really nice. So
exactly. Okay, so take me to the alley. I've got to make a note, and don't be afraid to remind me and say, don't forget to include that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, awesome.
Fabulous. Okay.
Thanks again. Have a beautiful day.
I hope you enjoyed listening to that conversation with Laila Biali. What you're listening to now is Snow, very aptly. And it may even be snowing by the time this podcast episode comes out. Looking out of the window here in the UK, it's very grey and drizzly at the moment, but we do get snow in November, certainly sometimes. I hope this episode finds you well. Please do consider rating, reviewing, sharing this episode and others. And you can support the show. All the links are in the show notes. But thank you for joining me again, and enjoy Snow from Winter Songs by Laila Biali.
The snow, it ebbs and flows and scatters with the eastern blow, and all the things we think we know will melt like ice into the riverboat. The memories that lay frozen long ago.
Thank you for listening to the latest episode of Harmonious World. My name is Hilary Seabrook, and it's a great delight to bring this series of discussions with musicians and composers and writers and all sorts of people to you. Obviously, there's no point in having a podcast if people aren't listening, and I'm very grateful to my listeners for doing so. Thanks also to Joe English for composing and performing this new theme tune. So wherever you get your podcast, you can leave a review. You can share this with your friends and family, either as a link or on social media and that sort of thing. I'd be really grateful for that. Don't forget that you can subscribe now. There's a link wherever you get your podcasts. So have a great week, and please remember why I started this, which is just to try and make the world a little more harmonious. Thanks for listening to Harmonious World.